Hey friends! Welcome to Spirit Club, a podcast and community that is all about doing the inner work to live an aligned and, dare I say, happy life. I'm your host, spiritual guide and intuitive, Angell Kelly, and I'm here to share my teachings along with messages passed on to me from higher consciousness. I've also got incredible guests in store to help you go down all those spiritual rabbit holes. So let's go! Welcome to the club! Hi, Spirit Club. Welcome back. And today we are going to talk about intuition. How have I not done an episode on intuition yet? I don't know. I believe that everyone has intuition. And I feel like that's something that we're starting to accept as a collective now. But it's kind of like the same way that all of us can learn or speak a language. And yeah, some of us grew up speaking 2 or 3 languages, so it appears easier. Or some of us are just more of natural learners when it comes to language. But in the end, language is something that's all accessible and available to all of us. Same way that I think intuition is. Now, my mentor, Nikki Novo, she describes intuition as the voice of your soul. And that really feels right to me. And I would add to that because our souls are fragments of Source, fragments of God, then intuition is God's voice or Source speaking through us. And so this is why we can work with intuition to direct our own lives. We can also work with intuition as a channel, a voice to support others on their paths and lives. So whichever one you are, or both, you've come to the right place. So before I get into today's episode, I just want to announce that enrollment for one-on-one mentorship with me is open. We will be starting at the end of September, and I'm only taking a couple of one-on-one clients. But I just wanted to let you guys know here, because after listening to this episode, you might be thinking, gosh, I would love some support developing my intuition. And that is what I do with a lot of my clients. Yes, we do the inner work, but developing intuition always kind of ends up being a piece of that. Sometimes it's a large piece of it, sometimes it's a smaller piece, but in some way or another, intuition always supports the inner work. So we end up doing both. So you can drop your name in the mentorship waitlist form below if you want me to reach out, and I will just send you the details, no pressure, but just so that you have the information. Okay, so I think most of us, whether we work with intuition professionally or not, we want to work with intuition to direct our own lives. It's all about us, you know? We want it so that we can make the right path. We can make the right choices. We can be on the right path. We can live happy, aligned lives. And it's crazy because I swear everyone I've ever worked with, every client I've ever worked with is super intuitive, but they are so blocked. They're so blocked. They're blocking themselves from listening, from accessing, from following that intuition. So you know where we're going to start. We're going to start with the deeper underlying blocks to your intuition. Here we go. I have 6 today. There are probably more, but let's start with these 6 and see what comes through. Okay, first block to your intuition. I can't trust myself. Kind of obvious. So there's this like deeper feeling, if I trust myself, bad things will happen, or I'll make bad choices. So this may be coming from childhood. Maybe you were sort of taught to, maybe your choices were questioned a lot, or you were told that you made wrong choices, whatever that happens to be, or, and quite likely it's coming from a past life, a witch wound. So we've talked about the witch wound before. Essentially, there was a time when trusting yourself in a past life led to death, someone dying or you dying. And therefore, I can't trust myself. Okay, block number 2. I have to make the right choice. If I don't make the right choice, I am bad, a failure, whatever that happens to be, not worthy, not good. So this is for my perfectionists in the crowd. I know there are many of you. Perfectionists tend to have a lot of activity in the mind, which it makes it difficult to move into the heart where I believe intuition sits. That's why if ever any of you have ever done meditations with me, I'm always bringing you to your heart. So if this is your block, you may feel intuitive hits, intuitive pulls, but then your mind gets involved and you analyze, overanalyze, all in an effort to make the perfect, most right choice. So you can see why this would block your intuition. Okay, third block to intuition is others' needs are more important than mine. So I recently did a people-pleasing episode. This is for my people pleasers. And you might be thinking like, how is this relative to my intuition? Well, if you believe that others' needs are more important than yours, then that means you are always going to make the choice that puts their needs first. And if your intuition is telling you to do otherwise, which often it will because your intuition is trying to guide you and your path, and if that conflicts with, hurting other people's feelings, putting their needs first, well, you're always going to choose others. So this will block your intuition. All right, fourth block, being a victim is better. Being a victim serves me. And I know most of you are listening to this and you're like, I'm not me, I'm not a victim. Most people who are victims don't think they're victims. And so I just want to kind of remove some shame and stigma around that, because I can almost say almost everyone's been a victim somewhere at some place in their life, myself included, for sure. So how does this relate to intuition? This is for the people who I can feel there's a group of you who doesn't want to trust themselves. Because if you trust yourself, then you have to take ownership, you have to take action, you have to take responsibility, and it feels better to just be a victim. Be a victim to the world, be a victim to bad people. So this will be a block to your intuition, because if you are listening to your intuition, it's pretty hard to be a victim. So you'll know this is you if you often feel like the world hates you, the world's working against you, blaming others a lot, not trusting others, all that sort of thing. Okay, fifth block. The mind or logic or science is king. Following the heart or intuition is woo-woo, is weird, is strange, is irresponsible. I mean, who does this not live in some way or another? And that's because society has programmed us to be this way. If you look at any media, TV shows, movies, whatever, where there's a spiritual person kind of like following their intuition and their heart, they're always portrayed as like sort of a flighty, irresponsible. I mean, think Phoebe from Friends, okay? And so we're like, oh, well, I want to be perceived that way. Logic is what matters. Science is what matters, whatever. And it is no coincidence that we have been programmed this way. And why is that? Because if we're told to trust science, logic, all this sort of thing, then that means we're not trusting our hearts. If we're told not to trust our hearts, we are more easy to control. Because you can't control people who are following their intuition and their hearts. You can control people who are following logic, science, because you can feed them what that is. So this one, it's at some time in your life has probably existed in everyone, but it especially exists in those of you who are scientists, engineers, who work in those industries. And it's especially hard for you because you've built a career on logic, on science, on facts. And so for you to build a career, and then also believe in intuition and following the heart, you may feel a little bit like you're dismantling like the hill that you stand on, the foundation that you stand on and that you've built. Doesn't have to be one or the other, my friends, both and. Okay, and finally, sixth block, and this one's really deep, so the words may not land, but the feeling will. And that is, if I tap into my intuition, I will die. So this is the witch wound working the strongest. And you will know this applies to you if maybe those words don't hit, but when you think about developing your intuition, accessing your intuition, tapping into your intuition, if you feel deeply afraid, that fear is likely coming from a past life in which you were killed for being someone who operated on their intuition. Hi friends, just a quick interruption to let you know that enrollment for Within, a one-on-one mentorship with me, is open. Within is an 11-week customized to you private mentorship where we do the inner work so that you can align with your soul's path and purpose. I truly believe that our external world is a reflection of our internal world. And so if you are feeling stuck, frustrated, lost, and know that you're meant for more in this life, Within is for you. Sessions each week are a blend of intuitive coaching, healing, guided meditation, and/or subconscious reprogramming. And you know there are lots of practical exercises too. We start the last week of September, and I'm only accepting a small handful of clients. So if you're interested, drop your name in the link in the show notes, and I'll send you the details. And guys, I know private mentorship these days can be wildly expensive, so I just want to let you know up front that Within is roughly the cost of 11 angel readings. Nothing crazy, and you're welcome to pay monthly. Hope to see you in there. All right, that's it for blocks for now. I don't know. Those are the ones that came through. Per usual, when it comes to the deep beliefs that are stopping us from having what we want, right? What you guys want is your intuition, but these deep beliefs are underlying everything that you do. The first thing is always awareness. We're bringing it to conscious awareness, but we must address these things on a subconscious level. And FYI, my calendar is open only for 2 weeks right now. If you want a subconscious reprogramming session, it won't be open again until probably 2026. So get in there if you want it. Otherwise, I'll hook you up with other practitioners who help on that subconscious level. All right. So we've dealt with the blocks, or we're mindful of the blocks. Now let's talk about how to build your intuition. I'm going to give you a little daily meditation. In my one-on-one mentorship with clients, I guide them through an intuitive reading that they do on themselves. But today, since we're on the podcast, I'm just going to do something really light and easy since it's difficult to guide you through that on here. And why meditation? Well, because when we're in meditation, we've slowed down our brain waves. And when we slow down our brain waves, our conscious thought, our analytical thought, all that sort of thought process that really gets in the way of intuition, takes up less space, is put aside. So that is one perk of doing it in meditation. And the other being, of course, not a bunch of distractions, just making space for that voice to speak up. All right. So this little intuitive reading that you're going to do on yourself. First things first, I want you to approach this exercise, this meditation, developing your intuition with the spirit of curiosity, with the spirit of play, with the spirit of trust, okay? You are not approaching it with the spirit of expectation, pressure, demands, okay? All of that goes aside. We are stepping into almost like an inner child spirit of play, okay? Secondly, I want you to bring a journal with you to your meditation. So here's how your meditation is going to go. Super simple. You're going to sit down, close your eyes, And I want you to spend at least a minute focusing on gratitude. Okay, so you're going to sit down, eyes closed, think of people, things, places, whatever that you are grateful for. And as you think of them, you will feel gratitude. And I want you to focus on that feeling, on that vibration. So why are we doing this? Your vibration, your mood is going to impact your ability to access your intuition, to hear that voice clearly. So we want to raise our vibration to get closer and closer to source vibration. So we raise it through that feeling of gratitude. If you can't, like if you're really in a mood, don't do this. Just skip it that day. That is not the time for you to be accessing your intuition at this very developing beginner stage. All right, so we sat for a minute, we focused on gratitude, and we just felt that, focusing on the feeling of it. Then you're going to classically meditate for a couple of minutes, focusing on your breath, counting your breath. If it's hard for you to do that in silence, you're welcome to put a guided meditation on. But just this part of the meditation is about slowing down those brain waves and just bringing the focus in. So we'll spend a few minutes focusing on our breath. Finally, you'll place your hands on your heart. Remember, that's where intuition sits. And you're going to ask a question. Ask a question. And then you will accept the first thing you receive. The first thing you receive. Accept, open your eyes, and start writing in that journal you brought with you. And yes, that's pulling you out of meditation, but often you will forget the things that come through. And also by writing it down, it's almost an act of trust, which allows more to come through. So some of you might find as you start to write what's coming through, more will come through. Or you'll close your eyes and be able to go back, and then more will come through. Okay, so we're going to write everything. And here's key. This is very, very important. You must, for this phase, you must accept everything that comes through. Okay? I know you guys are going to be questioning. I know it's totally natural. Everybody does that. You're going to be questioning, did I think of that or was it intuition? Did my mind put that there or is it intuition? I don't care. You don't care. You're accepting everything at this stage. Okay? Everything. Blank slate. All right. So now you've finished writing. Close your eyes again. Now you can ground back into your body, the space you're in. And you can do that by imagining roots that are going to grow out of the base of your spine and burrow down deep into the earth, anchoring there and grounding you into the here and now. So that's your simple little intuitive meditation. Honestly, that whole thing can take 5 minutes. The longer you take to, especially if you're not a regular meditator, the longer you take with the meditation part before you ask your question, the better, because it slows your brain waves, gets you focused, gets that conscious mind out of it. So do this daily, exactly as I've described above, and your intuition will get stronger. Trust me, it will get louder. It will be like a muscle that you are growing by doing this every day. And the key things about it being what I said at the beginning, approach it with curiosity, trust, playfulness, not expectation, not pressure, and accepting everything that comes through. Make sure you do those 2 things and this will work for you. And if you want to supercharge your intuition, if you're like, I want this to go super fast, I'm really feeling motivated. Well then, everything that you write down, you will act on. You will follow through with. Okay? Why does this supercharge your intuition? Well, because it's one thing to say we trust something. It's one thing to say we trust something. And it's another thing to act on it. When we act on it, we must really trust it, right? And trust grows intuition. We always think it's the other way around. Oh, I have intuition, now I trust it. No. You trust it, and then your intuition grows. Trust, intuition grows. More and more and more. Okay, so that's how you can supercharge it. I remember before I started developing my gifts, before I knew anything about anything, I felt a lot coming through, and I was having, strange experiences. And I had the intuitive download to write down every intuitive hit I got and do it for a whole month. And I did that. And at the end of that, I ended up finding Nikki Novo and developing my gifts. So it was a very powerful month for me. Okay, so one last thing I want to say, and that is with respect to the question that you bring into that meditation. So the question is sort of like what you're reading. And I've got four things I want you to avoid just at this stage when you're beginning, when you're feeling really blocked, when you're developing. There are some things that you can avoid asking about because those things are just going to cloud your intuition. They're more like expert level intuition, if you will. Okay, the first thing you want to avoid is questions where you have a strong desire or bias. So don't pick a question about something that you really, really want. When you have a bias like that, it's going to be really hard to put that desire aside and hear the voice of God, the voice of intuition. This is like how it's difficult to distinguish what is the way and what is what I want it to be. It takes a lot of practice. And like I said, this is more expert level. So leave that one aside. Don't do a reading for yourself on a guy that you just met that you really like, or on a career that you are super devoted to. Okay? No. All right. Second type of question you're going to avoid at this stage is questions about something you are really afraid of, or the result is something you're really afraid of. So this is sort of similar to the first one about desire, just the opposite. If there's something you're really afraid of, let's say being alone, being single, or losing your job, or having to move, if you feel really fearful about those things, don't ask a question around it. Because again, it's going to be very difficult for you to put ego aside, for you to put that aside and hear the voice of intuition. You can get there. I know you're thinking, but this is what I want intuition for. Yes, don't worry, you can get there. Yes, but at this point, we are strengthening the muscle. So don't go pick a 200-pound muscle and start doing bicep curls with it. Let's work up to that. Okay, third type of question I want you to avoid is anything that has a lot of pressure. So maybe that's a time constraint, or like a money pressure, or the decision that you're trying to ask about has really big consequences, big repercussions. That's too much pressure. Again, can be very difficult. It sort of lines up with bias. Let's just skip this for now. You don't need that kind of pressure when you are in the energy of play and curiosity and allowing, right? All right, and final one. This one's like, there's like a spectrum, okay? And that is knowing a lot. So the more you know, the harder it will be to read, especially in the beginning. And especially for those of you who are up in your head a lot, up in your mind, analytical folks, perfectionists in the crowd. The more you know, the more it will be challenging to read. So in the beginning, try to pick questions about things that you know the least about, the lowest stakes. That's why with a lot of my clients, especially those who are very analytical, I get them to start with reading Complete Strangers because they know the least. There's the least pressure. There's the least everything. And it's, arguably the easiest for them to start to grow their muscle, trust their muscle. All right. Gosh, I feel like I was talking really fast. I guess I was excited. Thank you guys for requesting this episode. And I know that was a lot, but it's going to be really fun. Have fun. And if you want some personalized one-on-one support as you navigate developing your intuition, hit me up, one-on-one mentorship in the show notes. Okay, until next time. Bye, guys.